Hi again guys, and welcome to what is more than likely going to be, for now at least, the final episode of Quattroporte, episode 57. And in this particular pick, we are closing out the series, for now at least, with a strong vehicle. I always like to start and end any particular series with a strong, notable car. So that's what we've done. We've saved one of the best until last, not necessarily the best, but one of the best. And in this series we've covered a few super saloons, but by far most of them have been sports saloons. Super saloons are, for obvious reasons, more useful. They have far more power, far more performance, especially top-end performance, and their range of competitiveness can actually go quite a lot higher than a sports saloon. You can take them into much higher PP levels, or in some cases similar PP levels to sports sedans, but due to their, generally speaking, higher top-end power, they will have a huge advantage on tracks which allow them to use said power. Now this particular vehicle is of course the Audi RS6. We featured the estate version of this car before in the Party in the Back series, and we already covered how good a car it was. Now as far as spec, this vehicle shares many things, most things in fact, in common with the wagon version. Now the engine is a 4.2 litre, and you can turbocharge that engine up to 841 horsepower. Proper super saloon territory. It also puts out 656 foot-pounds of torque and weighs in at a pretty hefty 1,365 kilos. But that being said, 1,365, though heavier than some, is not bad, considering that this is a luxury car and an all-wheel drive car at that. So that's actually not a bad weight at all. That's lighter, for instance, than the Chrysler 300C, which is, of course, rear-wheel drive, not all-wheel drive. As far as horsepower per tonne, you're pretty much in supercar territory. 616 horsepower per tonne is very hefty for a car that's so heavy, and really goes to show just how much power it has. Well over 800 horsepower means that even though it's not the most powerful of super saloons, obviously the C63, the E55, the Dodge Charger are all more powerful than this, but with over 800 horsepower available, you're pretty much guaranteed to have strong performance, though not necessarily the strongest. But sometimes you don't need the strongest performance. You can have enough to, under the right circumstances, win regardless. As long as you have enough to work with, you can attain victory. Now this particular car converts all of that power and torque into real usable performance. The all-wheel drive means that, like pretty much any Audi Quattro vehicle on the game, it will launch off the line incredibly quickly. The 0 to 60 time can wipe the floor with any rear-wheel drive super saloon. They're just suffering from rampant wheel spin generally, whereas this car just gets the job done and it's gone. It's a speck in the distance, at least for shorter to mid-range drags. Now it's to be noted about this vehicle that although the top-end performance is very good, over 250 under its own power, well over, it's not as strong for top-end acceleration. The top-end speed is very good, but the top-end acceleration isn't quite as quick as some others. And that's interesting because that's often the case with all-wheel drive performance cars. They tend to lose out a bit of acceleration top-end. Lamborghinis, for instance, also suffer from that, and various others. Now, as far as value for money, this car is excellent. Most of the super saloons cost upward of 100 grand, with only a few notable exceptions, and this is one of those vehicles. 117,000 credits is pretty hefty, especially for a non-premium, but it's most definitely worth that as far as I'm concerned. You get incredible straight line performance from low-end acceleration to top speed. The handling is really good. The handling is weighty, as you'd expect from an all-wheel drive vehicle of its size and weight, but it's, like most Audi RS models, surprisingly forgiving, given how much power it has to work with. The all-wheel drive will save you in most scenarios, and it just means that it's a really dependable all-round car. Now, as far as where it falls in overall ability compared to something like an M5 or a C63, one of the most notable things to keep in mind about this Audi is one of the things we've already mentioned, the all-wheel drive. That's an easy thing to not necessarily take for granted, but not to appreciate as much as you should, because by far most super saloons in the game are rear-wheel drive. The Merc AMG models, the BMW M models, the American models such as the Chrysler 300C, Dodge Charger, etc. They are by far mostly rear-wheel drive. So the fact that this Audi is all-wheel drive in the super saloon class is actually a little bit more niched than you might think. If you think of other vehicles on the same level as this car with all-wheel drive, specifically sedan or saloon cars, there really aren't that many. There are some other all-wheel drive vehicles in this series, of course, most of them being from Audi, but they're not super saloons. The S4s, for instance, are not super saloons, they're sports saloons. So this car really does offer something relatively unique in the top-tier super saloon selection. So overall, as I said, we're ending the series with a strong car, so it goes without saying, of course, you should check out this car. It's incredibly quick. The handling isn't necessarily as sharp as something like an M5. Around a twisty track, a BMW M5, for instance, or even a Mercedes E55 or C63 will be able to beat it through twisty corners. But the strong thing about the Audi RS6 is basically the same good thing about the S4s. It's just a good all-rounder. But that's it overall for this particular series, and I was hoping to review some sports saloons from Gran Turismo's past, notably from GT4, but due to the aspect ratio of those videos, I won't be able to upload them at the moment. But that's it overall for this particular series. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.